Record. Okay, it's official now. Be on your best behavior.
Yeah, now there's pressure to
You're on public time now.
Shit.
Okay, let me do a little announcement. Community dinner, Health Alchemy and crowd with Elliot Stone down in, what's that town again?
Mazunte.
Mazunte, Mexico. And an hour ahead our time. Or you're 8:30, right? 8:30 p.m.
Sure.
And it's what's the date? November 4th. November 4th, 2002. So we've just passed the Day of the Dead. And my own personal announcement is, when I was a young man, I loved this time of year. But as an older man, I'm born on May 1st. I'm born on the day of fertility. And so October 31st is a dark, difficult couple of weeks for me, right around this period of time. Very difficult. It's like there's another person living my life out that's very negative, irritable. And so there's a constant letting go. Grief, the 5 element, metal elements. It's just a constant letting go for me. And that's why I would talk about it, because when I talk about the darker side of my being, then it makes it lighter for me because I've shared and I'm not contained, holding it in shame or guilt or whatever that comes with these darker parts of our personality, So
well, that's the other thing I'm learning in this men's group, is to allow space for our feminine to express itself, right? Because as men, maybe we're, programmed to suppress and not show emotion. And if this was a huge breakthrough for me, is if I don't allow room and space for my feminine, then the feminine partner won't trust me to handle their feminine, right? If the feminine is a lot of motion, like the ocean, and comes and goes in different waves. Well, if I'm not in space for my feminine to come and go and act and express, then the female partner is going to be like, handle your feminine, and you keep my feminine, right? So we're doing some exercises, some breathing exercises, and just in general, like allowing our emotions to express themselves. So that's important, we can have all sides of ourselves expressed.
Elliot,
so this is a tough time for you, Craig. Like you're saying,
you're well ahead of
October
where
31st.
I was when I was your age. It's really inspiring, to hear you saying these things. I was pretty homophobic and not in touch with my feminine as much. I wanted to be, but it was just locked down, when I was a young man, and until I got hammered a few times and that kind of popped out of it.
Well, they say we stand on the shoulders of giants. So you came before us, paving the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very fortunate. I'm alive because I was kept alive, I believe, because I had a death wish, to be quite honest. I was live fast, die young, drove fast, surf fast. It was fun. I mean, I had great. I've had an awesome life. So the query then, like I like to have a little discussion around an inquiry. Then, in this dark, contracted. Then the query for me is kind of, how do I live through the veil being so thin? How do I live through this? And then by living from the question, life shows me how to. How do I live through this? And then moment to moment, life shows me how. It's a Tao Te Ching thing, the right question, right? You got to ask the right question. So I figured out through Carol and the Access Consciousness crowd was just frame a question and then live from the question again, right? How do I live through this dark time? Okay, I'm finding out how.
I asked this question to a 7-Eleven worker once. The 7-Eleven on Mount Herman Road in Scotts Valley at one time had 3 martial art masters working behind the counter. Legit masters.
What?
And which also inspired me. I did a stint as a gas station worker as well, and it's a good experience. I enjoyed it. So I asked this question to this old timer, 65 years old, quiet worker behind the counter. I knew he did martial arts, and I was like super stressed, and I was like, fuck man, I don't know what to do. Like I'm trying to do all this, but also like the teachings say to like calm down and be like this, but I want to grow, I want to do stuff, but I want to be at peace. Like, what do I do? How do I do it? And he was like, oh, just like you are, you know, you just keep going. Like you're already walking, so just keep walking, and that's it.
Right.
And yeah, I think we look for these answers, you know, but the answer is you just keep waking up. And that's where I got to with my death wish, is like, well, you're talking about killing yourself, you know, mentally, your thoughts. You can do that, you know,
Right.
that's an option. You can do that.
Right.
And I kept, you know, talking about it every day. And so it's finally like, bro, if you're gonna keep talking about it, like either fucking do it or shut up about it, right? Like you have that option to do it. So if you're talking about it, like, you know, either do it or shut up. Like we're over it. And so yeah, I finally, you know, I decided I'm not gonna do it. And so my theory right now is like I'll just keep waking up. Like that's all I gotta do is wake up until God wants me home, you know, and the rest we have no control. I don't, not to say we have no control. You know, it's a 50-50 in my mind, right? We do our part and we're met halfway with the universe, and that dance is life, right? But our job is to wake up every day and do our best. And you talk about that awake and asleep analogy a lot, right?
Yeah.
But I mean like literally just keep getting out of bed. That's almost all we have to do. And then try to be awake in our interactions. And yeah.
So
the answers, I don't know, you know, just keep going. Just keep going.
So when I started meditating about 35 years ago, I remember I didn't know how insane my mind was until I sat in silence with it, you know, sincerely for the first time. Then I honestly had to say, I had a thought upon a thought upon a thought upon a thought. So there was no gap. And so it was just a constant noise. And then I realized, you know, I had a lot of work ahead of me, and that was 35 years ago. And so it seems to me what my teacher had pointed out, Ajay pointed out, was you don't wake up. The awakeness that's already here wakes up through you. And you slow down the apparatus enough or align it and harmonize it enough, then the awakeness that is what's already here breaks through the equipment, or what I call the earth suit. You know, and so when there's a cacophony like this time of year,
right?
Literally I'll have 20 voices, you know, swirling around that aren't mine because the veil's thin. So that's kind of in the opposite time of year. In the spring, it's like la-di-da, like, you know, it's like Mary Poppins shit, you know, it's all lovely and fluffy and light and easy. And this time of year, it's just the opposite, like heady. And so it's like, I use this word discernment, right? I want to be in discernment. What's mine? What's other? What's real? What's delusion? And so there's some markers. Like if something's heavy and sticky and dark and confusing, then I know it's not real. If it's light and clear, right? If I have discernment to navigate, to your point, to just the solution to any problem lies within the problem itself, just sitting with it. That's always been my way. Got a problem, just sit and meditate with it, and it will reveal itself. Most people think their way through problems. That doesn't work. I mean, it's okay to think because we get attached to thinking. It's the identity that's the problem.
No, I've been listening to the teachers recently on YouTube, the Indian teachers, and yeah, they're like, your mind is a great servant, but a bad master, right? So yeah, to like use your mind as a tool, put it to work, but don't let your mind use you.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I read a story about numerous people in India that went into a lower states of samadhi, and they didn't know which mouth to feed, for example, or which hole was pooping. I mean, that'd be weird, right? You're so in the oneness that you don't know which body you're in.
I mean, pooping feels pretty good, right? So
the ego's kind of helpful there. Like
kind of makes sense.
This orifice here, you know, not that orifice over there.
Yeah. Pooping out your mouth would probably be a very orgasmic feeling, I can imagine. It's one of the best sensations in the world, right? To like that release. We're all looking for a release for freedom, right?
Yeah.
Ejaculation, bathroom,
Sneeze.
but
Even a sneeze.
Sneeze. But I think containment of all those things, right? Self-discipline, not reaching for the sugar, not reaching for the alcohol, not reaching for porn.
Chocolate,
right?
porn. The list could go like,
if we can contain ourselves, right? Discipline. That's the craziest paradox. I love the mystery, right? The paradox of life, but how discipline equals freedom, right? It's very crazy. Dude, I'm blowing my mind right now just to share where I'm at in life. I've been going to 7 a.m. meditations. I mean, I've turned 35, so finally, I think I'm finally growing up a little bit. I've been going to 7 a.m. meditations for about 3 months in a row, like every day. And so that means I wake up at like 6:30, and that's revolutionary, mind-blowing already. Well, we just had daylight savings time. Our daylight savings time is like a week ahead of yours. Weird.
Okay.
You know? So that, so we gained an hour, right? So it gets brighter an hour early. And so I've been waking up at like 5:30, 5:45, and going to the yoga school an hour early of meditation by like 6, doing an hour of yoga and then meditating at 7.
Yeah.
And dude, this has only been going on. I've been meditating at 7 a.m. on and off for a few years, but still I can sleep till 12 noon, no problem. Like I can sleep till 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. I'm the king, right? So 3 months in a row of like 7 a.m. is huge. But for me to get myself out of bed at 5:30 a.m., never in 35 years, right? So I don't know what we're talking about, but
self-contained
purification, lightness, self-discipline. Discipline equals freedom, right? Yeah. And yeah, so that discipline, obviously the benefits are there, meditating every day. Yeah, the paradox. It's weird.
I'm a number 5. My life number is 5. Freedom. And it wasn't until I read Dan Millman. He's got a book on numerology, right? And the word he used was responsibility. So without responsibility, you don't have freedom. And that really hit me because I kept looking for more and more freedom, right? But there's some things I wasn't attending to. So that chapter was really made all the difference to me.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Could you go deeper on that for us? Responsibility and freedom?
Personal story. Personal story example. You got one to throw out there at us?
Yeah, let me ruminate a little bit on it because there isn't one that comes, but
I'll answer
later.
Okay, Monica's got one.
Yeah. On the 22nd anniversary of finding out that I was trying to bear my son, who will be 22 at 4 a.m. our time coming up, and realized I had to do something different. And we were in the midst of an incredible long night. And the aspects of knowing, I imagine you're not a dad yet at your age and what you've said, but the change for women, especially by going through childbearing, is just massive. It's the biggest rite of passage possible. And that shift of knowing I was wanting to have this baby and wanting to make sure I would have a healthy overall experience, and knowing that I had to overcome all kinds of extra things to get there, took me through very consciously that rite of passage. And that terror of knowing I now have this new job that I don't, and I had actually prepared for about 7 years. I'd worked really hard to find out, what do I do to learn about becoming a mother? and I was still completely terrified. But the responsibility of it was completely eclipsed by the love and the sense of incredible joy that this life had come through me. And it was, I mean, the first year of a baby is one of the hardest things a woman can go through, for sure. And most marriages, it's the hardest time they can go through.
Right.
And that responsibility is just huge. And so I always explain to somebody else, every year I relive the whole aspect of going through labor, and it's really alive. So I think that's an example where responsibility brought a freedom of my soul, of my life, of my beingness, because it's the ultimate huge leap for me in my life of going through that. So that's a way.
A real quick input was in recognizing my responsibility. Then I know I have freedom, finally, because within that context, I know what I'm doing. I'm not searching to be a seeker. Did you get that? Within understanding what my responsibility is, and for me, it's holding the light in as high a place as I can right now, and being focused. I have freedom therein. Okay, that sound good? Yeah.
I think Elliot got that. You get that, Elliot?
I'm writing, yeah.
Oh, he's writing it.
Freedom within the responsibility clarified.
Yeah, Elliot, this is Joanne here. Joanne's used to be an acupuncturist. So she's also Tao 5 element familiar. You've got some elder energy here with you tonight.
Please.
Yeah. We're on the circle.
I was called an elder when I was 50 in this men's group, and I'm like, I'm an elder. It's a white-haired old dude.
You have that death wish.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, she's packing.
It's good. It's right here.
I gotta be careful what I say in this.
And we're all older than 29.
Yeah.
And Saturn return.
He's using elder as wisdom. He's listing it as wisdom, right?
Yeah, elder wisdom. In the men's group, it's like a huge compliment to get to have the elders
Absolutely.
around you. Yeah, huge compliment. Yeah.
You need a teepee.
Yeah, Elliot, I was in a men's group years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and one of the head elders came up to me and goes, "I want you to declare your elderhood." And I'm like, "Me? Are you kidding me?" I go, "I'm the last thing from an elder, He goes, "No, you got wisdom, man. You got and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then I go to the head guy, and the head guy's like, "Why do you want to be an elder?" And I'm like, "Because blah, blah, blah told me so." And he goes, "That's not good enough." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck." Gaslight Central. So I go ruminate on it for 48 hours. And then the weekend's about to end, and I'm like waiting for my guidance to come in. I'm like, "Hey, angels, what am I supposed to say to this guy?" Because this other guy wants me to do it, and the other guy's challenging me. And so finally there's these two voices talking, literally like two of my guides are like talking to each other, and like, "I don't think he's going to get it. Maybe he's going to get it. Well, he's listening now." One of them goes, "Well, he's listening now." And I go, maybe I'll throw that at him. I'm listening now. I'm an elder because I can listen now, listen to my guidance. And so I went and I told him that. He goes, "You got it. You're an elder now." And then a week later, something horrible happened where I knew I was listening what was happening, but I didn't act on the listening. So then I had to add in, I'm listening and I'm acting on the prompt instead of just listening and not acting on the prompt, right? So I had to throw in the extra.
Maybe it would be called hearing and not listening. Yeah. Let's either keep going around the circle on this responsibility and freedom. Actually, I have a follow-up question for, was it Monica behind your left shoulder?
Yeah.
You talked about your child being your responsibility, but then freedom. Can you explain what the freedom was a little more? I mean, my assumption would be connecting it to like love, like freeing your spirit through love. But what freedom did you experience with your child?
Mostly it's
through that childbirth.
It's the freedom of feeling so capable of having gone through something so intense and taken on something so huge as ensuring that this little life would have the best chance and be clothed and fed and clean and all the aspects that you want to care about, on top of constantly seeking experiences for him so that he would be learning and growing. And what I prepared for ahead of time was much more that, even though I had learned about health and nutrition and all these other things so that I could handle whatever would happen, and did herbally and such. No garbage, no drugs with the birthing, anything, of course, because that's just not necessary, and very, very freeing to be able to get through childbearing, which is ridiculously extreme. But to turn pain into power and to adjust all of that is so freeing on the inside, to actually go through that experience. And then on top of it, to have all these responsibilities constantly clouding and crowding what else I might do in my life otherwise. You know, the change of suddenly being a mother is beyond huge. So I think
so it's just like, so expanding your boundaries, kind of that, like, once it's expanded, then you're operating in this bigger realm, huh?
Yeah. And another piece of it really is constant humility, because you're constantly facing things you don't know, no matter how much you tried to prepare, and constantly making it to the next moment, constantly getting through the next night anyway, and finding out that you learned and you supplied what was needed. The idea is not as fluid coming out as it is other times for me. I'm on the tired side tonight, but I care deeply about being a soul as much as I can all the time. And that was easier to do with a baby, because babies are so evocative of the magic of being alive. That first breath that he took was astonishing. It's called inspiration because it's the idea that that's when the soul enters the body in the spirit. And I sang to him as he was coming out and as he was there. And it's a truly life-altering experience, of course. And the best part about it that I tell everyone I can, keep being of service to pregnant women. There's nothing better. I've been at 4 other babies being born, and the sense of miracle never ends being there while a baby comes through and takes the first breath. There's absolutely nothing else like it. It's even the same for, kittens and puppies and any chance we have on a farm. Yeah. But that remarkable reminder is hugely responsible work and hugely freeing to get beyond the trappings of our bodies and remember this is a miracle to be alive right now.
Wow.
And an incredible responsibility.
And an incredible responsibility right now, especially. Yeah, Satori's bringing that up. Yes.
To hang in the energy that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right now.
But we know we earned the right to be alive right now.
And we chose to be here.
We did, but there's also an aspect to me of that earning that makes so much sense that we had to take enough steps along the way to be here, to hold for more people to join us in a far more spiritual approach so that we have the chance to have all humanity evolve. I prefer to say all being kind instead of all humankind.
Right.
It's time for us to step up to the plate and choose evolution. Together is the only way with it. It's not a piecemeal project, but every choice that each of us makes matters. So, the paradox.
So Elliot, I don't know if you ever read Chronicles of Tao. Chronicles of Tao, it was written about a guy that came over about a century ago from China. His master sent him over. And he was part of an exodus that went on for about 1900 to about 1940 or 50 of all these gurus and masters coming over from the East, because the major players in the East knew that the West was going to destroy the world with materialism. And now we're the few generations down the road, and we are that 7th generation that the Indians said where the native spirits would wake up through the white folk. And I know that's happened through me, and you're probably of that ilk too, Elliot, where it's like, where no matter what happens on the external, we know, you know, the way, because the gyroscope's in here. And then we're bringing that forth into the world. And pain, yeah, to your point, Monica, love isn't about, I mean, awareness doesn't give a crap about pain and suffering. Actually, to me, what I found out that PTSD is nothing more than awareness is fascination with an experience that's rare. Like me getting hit by a car and launching 8 feet into the air, played out 10,000 times over a month because I meditate every day. And it's like, what is this really? And then I got in touch with the awareness itself, and it was fascinated with launching into the air. So it ended the next day for me when I
like, let's watch that again. That shit was crazy.
Yeah, it's the awareness is like, wow, there's a lot of pain involved, but awareness, the transpersonal self that's actually living us, I don't believe pain is a problem for it. And then what Monica is saying is by aligning, you know, taking the responsibility that, you know, the container's in pain, but it is just a sensation in the end. That's what I tell myself. It's just a sensation. And you know, I've had pain so bad I didn't sleep for 2 weeks once. Because I won't take a pharmaceutical. I haven't taken a pharmaceutical in 30 years. I will never take a pharmaceutical unless I'm unconscious and it's forced on me. Because I know what that energy is. So pain is part of love to me. The freedom to experience it. Not freedom from, freedom to. I want freedom from. Well, how about freedom to? Freedom to experience, freedom to embody.
What you just said reminded me of your, when you give a massage, you feel free to give me pain.
Yeah.
And you claim that you're being a responsible healer in your zeal to give me a lot of pain to help me through my crystallized thought forms, which you did and you are. And yeah,
Her ankle popped. I mean, that ankle pop was like, what the? It was like an explosion. I was like adjusting her ankle, and I was like, wow, what the hell was locked in there? Wow. I do shiatsu, Elliot. So you know, work on the meridians, and then inevitably I'm guided to where, you know, the spots are in here, behind the shoulder blades, in the pelvis, and around the trochanters and the hips on the gallbladder meridian. And those are generally the spots that, you know, stuff sticks and gets stagnant and eddies form in the chi. And so you just, you know, I know where to go, and I'll explore right in there. I don't poke anymore.
depends with a hammer.
Yeah.
I gently explore with the hammer.
Freedom to give pain.
Freedom to give pain. I'm so free, I can give pain.
I bring my pistol into massages. Y'all have one of those pistols?
Oh my goodness. It's the banter crowd, if you hadn't noticed, Elliot.
That's good. We're a circle. We're together.
Well, let's see. We're getting close to an overwhelming amount of time on the YouTube thumbnail. So maybe we can start to. You have any other thoughts on this veil thing? You know, I like that with the responsibility and the freedom. That was juicy, you know, dynamic to talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were talking about we already are that, right? And the word I've been thinking of lately, and you, I'm sure, will resonate with your health work, is the word purification, right? And so, yeah, I agree to affirm again that I am believing more and more, you know, that we already are that, you know, the purity, the divine channel of God. And we just have a bunch of shit in us that's from the programming and receiving. I don't know how and when it started, but And so our life can be a process of purification, right? Through meditating, by observing, right? By bringing awareness to these things, they dissolve. By, of course, watching what we put in our bodies, exercising, which, and yoga, well, yoga is opening up the chakra channels, right? And I'm not sure how much exercise and spirituality has been talked about as a crossover. But obviously a healthy vehicle is going to flow better and be a better channel for the divine, right? So yeah, I just want to reinforce again that journey of purification, and that there's like not more we need to do, right? We don't need to put more things in, right? The Tao says in the world of knowledge or something, more and more is acquired every day, but in the pursuit of Tao, more and more is let go of every day, right? And so yeah, it's like this is another famous quote that I love is when Michelangelo was asked how did he create the statue David, he said, easy, I just took away everything that wasn't David. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a great one.
And there's a sense the ego self, there's a sense it doesn't like to shrink on some level. A good example is, in traffic, somebody tries to pass me, I get all inflated and speed up and don't let them in. If they're trying to pass in the slow lane, it's like, no, you're not getting in. I'm waiting for the guy ahead of me, fuck you. And so by letting that person go graciously, there's sort of a shrinking of the ego, like, because I have a competitive side. It's like, oh, we got one car ahead of me. Fucking asshole, but that's all subtle judgment too.
What's nothing subtle about that? That's pure condemnation.
It used to be subtle. I wasn't even aware of it. I just felt like this. And then I was like, ew, that's.
I'm glad we got Monica on the team.
Yeah, see, there's the call out.
It's horrible.
She sits behind us and she sits higher than us. And
Craig and Bernadette and I went on a long road trip in May, and Craig was doing all the driving. And
you did offer though.
I did offer. And after a while I noticed like he has a judgment about every driver. And I finally said something to him like, isn't it exhausting?
Yeah.
How much time you spend judging every driver?
Yeah. What else could you do with that energy?
Nice.
Let's write a poem.
And then he started to notice.
Because of you, I started noticing more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today I was noticing the thoughts I had.
That's a good friend right there, Craig.
And I said, that's taking a lot of energy from me. Just evaluating. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be looking all over the place.
Right.
What a great realization though. And on myself, how I didn't know I did that.
But this is the subtle science. We're talking about the subtle sciences, right? In the East, there was all these pathways of Patanjali's and, all the ancient pathways. And then we're stuck in this world of the hard sciences, which is the ultimate divisive, fragmented, study the parts. And then what we're talking about, though, is the unifying force, these subtle aspects of consciousness that Jesus called many mansions in my Father's house. We're just studying the mansions a little more carefully now. We don't have the language for it per se, because that's been taken from us, but we can still reinvent stuff. And that's the whole point of these circles to me, is like we're reinventing how to relate from this other level, not the fragmented parts, because I grew up in the MTV moments, when I broke my neck, I was literally plastered in front of MTV for 3 months because I was in a halo brace. So I had no choice really. And my brother was smoking, gallons of weed, and, I didn't really want to smoke, but it definitely helped the pain and suffering of being in a cage for 3 months, as a 21-year-old. Can you imagine being in a halo brace 21, Elliot? It was like, get me out of this thing. You did?
Oh, yeah, halos, they show the holes.
Yeah, feel that.
They're about 40 pounds.
Feel that right.
So,
Feel that right there. I got 4 screw holes still in my head from,
yeah.
my guy was only 20 foot-pounds.
Oh, 20?
He had 20 foot-pounds. He had the torque wrench out, and I was like, you've got a torque wrench, buddy? He goes, yeah, I got a torque wrench into the right.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's amazing. And transferring them out of bed into that.
And there's a weird pressure changing when they clamp it down. It's like there's all this pressure on the head for a couple of days, and that's where the weed would just like release all the pressure. And I didn't even smoke weed until it. I was straight edge punk rock guy, you know, and then suddenly I'm like, wow, this is very freeing. I'm not stuck in my little cage anymore. Wow. Fun. And then my teacher used to say, you find freedom within prison. And he did all these examples of all these enlightened prisoners who were lifers. And because he used to teach in the prison. And he said, you know, if you know you're never going anywhere, then all you have is here. If you never go, you're going, you're stuck in four walls. All you've got's right now. So you better start living right now. And then the awareness wakes up in some people because they're surrendered.
Crazy, huh?
Finding freedom within prison.
He would love the film, Doing Time in Vipassana. If you can find the film, Doing Time in Vipassana, very much what Craig is saying. They went in and taught meditation in a medium-hold prison, and they did 30 days.
I've watched that documentary.
Way.
You've watched it.
Oh, you've watched it. What'd you think?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, phenomenal. I want to watch it again, and that is mind-blowing testimony of the power of this stuff, right?
Do you remember what some of the guys said about halfway through? If I had this when I was a teenager, I would not be here now.
Yeah.
Because they came from such brutal families, incest and drug use all the time, parents being beaten. And
Easy to imagine.
Well, then by the end of it, they were like, I don't even care that I'm in jail, right? Like, everything's fine. They're just like, whatever. Life is perfect. I was like, whoa.
That's powerful shit.
Let's go Goenka up. Pump that
Goenka, yeah.
Jeez Louise.
He's the big Vipassana teacher. He's the one you see on, if you do a 10-day, they play videos of him and the processes. And I did one 10-day, and it was one was enough. I did mainly was 5 days. And I have a video blog about this. My discovery is I call it the digestive properties of awareness. Because when we sit in pure awareness or silence, awareness just starts working its way down the layers. Whatever is happening now in my mind when I'm sitting in silence is the work. Why? Because awareness is chewing on it. How do I get behind this? That's the Sikh way. The Sikhs would say that God is always right before you. So if your thoughts are right before you and you're aware of them, then how can I inquire or explore more deeply what I call underneath the thought? Like, why do I have this thought versus this thought? Why do I feel compelled to do this while he feels compelled to do that? Like, what's driving that? It's always been, for my whole life, I've been thinking about that. Like, why do I even think about what I think about when Joe Blow over here thinks about something else? Like, why me? You know, what's compelling me to think that way? Right?
Well, the question down here that we meditate on from Ramana Maharshi is the who am I question. So I'm with you. Who am I?
After 20 years of that question, it changed to a what am I? It's like, man, it's just this.
Who is I? That's another good one.
What's my mission on earth?
Right.
Nice. Why am I here?
In the earth suit.
Amen.
Now at this time.
I just received that from someone else the other day too. Is like they said the same thing. Like, rather than who am I, like, why am I here? What's my mission? Yeah. Thank you.
In the improv world, I'm going to end the recorded part on that, and we'll just continue talking for a few more minutes. Thank you, folks, for watching our wonderful Elliot Stone tonight. And